Hey guys, it's Adam from LUCIDPIXUL, and I want to talk about this for a hot minute, if you'll indulge me. I want to talk about the Apple Pencil, the brand new Apple Pencil that Apple just released this week. And no, this is not that Apple Pencil. This is the Generation 2 that charges via magnet and has pressure sensitivity. I want to talk about that Apple Pencil because being a tech geek and being an artist myself who's done lots of Apple tech reviews and all kinds of drawing display reviews, and this is an industry I've been in for over 25 years at this point, I have a very different reaction and have a very different perspective of Apple's products from that perspective that a lot of standard tech reviewers don't get. And they consistently aren't getting it. And it's annoying because I feel the need to come in and kind of defend Apple's decisions. And I stand behind defending those decisions because they do ring true in my real life, and they consistently keep making steps in that direction. A brand new Apple Pencil came out, which you'd call a dummied down version of this. It does not have pressure sensitivity. It doesn't magnetize. You have to plug it in to charge it and all that kind of stuff. Albeit it does magnetize. It doesn't charge when it's connected. And there's a bunch of tech reviews out there going, oh my God, why would they do this? This is so stupid. Why are they dumbing down their pencil? Why would they take away features and all that kind of stuff? And yet again, for the third time, I'm here to defend Apple's decisions and really get excited about their decisions from the perspective of a professional digital artist. And this would include illustrators, concept artists, designers, people who are into video production, people who are into 3D animation or traditional animation, any of the above. I'll start with the first one, which was, why the hell did Apple release an overpriced Apple Studio display and separate that from the body with the Mac Studio? And you can check out my video right over here about that. In that video, well, at least in most of the videos that were being released by most standard tech YouTubers, they were saying it's overpriced. It has a bunch of features that I don't care for, like the webcam, and maybe the speakers are fine, but it's got a built-in webcam that's very mediocre. I do agree. It's a very mediocre webcam that I'm not a big fan of. But it's got speakers, and it's got all this thing, and it's got the connectivity. But I would strip all of that to get a cheaper Mac Studio. Why did they do that? Why couldn't they just beef up their iMac? And from the perspective of a creative, from the perspective of an artist, particularly a digital painter, this was one of the most exciting pieces of news that I had heard. Because number one, there is no display on the planet that's better calibrated than an Apple display. And I want it to have multiple different devices, being an iPad, an iPad mini, Pro, iPhone, Apple Studio Display, whatever the case might be, that all have perfectly matching colors is a very big deal for an artist like me that pays meticulous attention to details, colors, contrasts, and wants to make sure everything is spot on, not only for me, but for my audience as well. So I had to jump in and defend Apple and say, no, this move from Apple is not dumb and overpriced. This is a professional move for artists, because one of the biggest frustrations that an artist has is, if I was working on an iMac, the iMac did not have the cooling, did not have the power, and did not have the versatility to have a multi-display, consistent, nice, elegant, and intuitive setup, where I could separate the brains of the iMac and the display, so I could get 2, 3, 4 displays if I wanted to, that are all perfectly matching in colors, that all have a matching quality. And I can decide what specs, how much RAM, how much memory I want for the computer itself. And on top of it, being a professional, I want a lot of connectivity. I want to have an SD card slot in the front of it. I want to have a couple of USB-C ports. I want to have a bunch of Thunderbolt ports so I can connect a whole bunch of peripherals, all in a nice, sleek, but powerful package that cools well. That which the iMac was incapable of doing. Because if you've ever tried to do any kind of video editing on an iMac, you would get about 10 seconds into that render, and then the fan, that little pathetic excuse for a fan, would shoot up, and then it would thermal throttle, and your rendering speed would be cut by 2/3. Which was, yeah, okay, it's a cute little small package, but that was a frustration. So separating those two, but still keeping it very minimalistic, but allowed them to be able to introduce a bunch of functionality and power and cooling and versatility for a professional artist, that which I 100% stood behind. I have 2 Apple Studio displays in my studio, and they are irreplaceable. What do I think would be a smart move for Apple moving forward? Well, maybe you could have a second version of an Apple Studio display, one which has all the speakers and stuff, but then one that you might be able to strip out the webcam and a couple of other features so it's slightly less expensive, because it's a bit redundant to have multiple webcams on multiple different displays. Or allow your Apple Studio displays to work as a stereo pair. So if you're working with multiple displays, if you get stereo audio coming out of 2 sets of speakers, that could really bump up the audio. But unfortunately, you're stuck to having one display that provides the audio. Little things like that. But overall, I think it was a genius move, and I think my Apple Studio displays and my Mac Studio have been irreplaceable. They're absolutely fantastic. The next was the iPad Pro. The M2 iPad Pro with Apple Pencil Hover. And every simpleton, if I can be bold, every simpleton, every non-artist tech YouTuber were up in arms saying, that's it? Why would I bother upgrading with just some stupid Apple Pencil Hover? It's otherwise a completely identical product. What's the benefit? Yeah, maybe an artist would benefit from that, but whatever. No, that's not small potatoes. Check out my entire history of digital tablets video that I've got right over here, and you will see just how significant that move is. Because Apple Pencil Hover, the ability to actually see your cursor from the perspective from a painter, from a digital painter, is a mandatory feature, and it was one of the reasons why I kept not using my iPad Pros, because it was just too much of a sacrifice not being able to exactly place my cursor and scale my cursor where my eyes were, instead of having to go over, scale my brush, hope it's the right size, come back, try to paint, no, wrong size. It completely destroyed the flow of painting. And to have all of that with Apple Pencil Hover, power, factory, some of the best factory calibrated settings imaginable for colors, extremely light, never heats up, no fans, and just to be able to grab it and just draw like that is mind-blowing. It's basically a little mini Cintiq that you can carry around with you, and it just slips into a bag and it barely weighs a thing. So that last feature was the missing link for artists. Apple knew it, and they have been redirecting their products, understanding that there's a certain demographic of customer that really benefits and uses the iPad Pro. Anybody who works in Procreate, Art Studio Pro, Infinite Painter, etc. All of them love, I know tattoo artists, 3D artists, digital painters, they all use iPads in their workflow. It's a phenomenal tool for that kind of stuff, particularly if you like to work on the road or work in a studio where you got to pick your computer up and work wherever you want to. I think Apple Pencil Hover was the best thing ever, and it's the reason why I use my iPad for drawing all the time now. Okay? And then comes the brand new Apple Pencil. And if you're a digital painter, you're probably still scratching your head sitting there going, why would Adam be excited about a digital pen that doesn't have pressure sensitivity? I mean, that is, if you're a digital painter, then obviously that's the most essential tool. In fact, the levels of pressure sensitivity is very often directly translates into the quality of a pen. Although I don't think 16,000 plus levels of pressure is really necessary, but it is necessary for painting. But that's why the general Apple product reviewer doesn't get it. What they're doing with this brand new Apple Pencil is exactly the same thing that Apple did with the iMac, the 24-inch iMac that came in multi-family friendly colors, and then later on came out with the Mac Studio and the Apple Studio display. It's exactly the same strategic move. They are making a designation between people who just need to use their Apple Pencil for writing, they're students, they want something on a budget, and they don't need pressure sensitivity. It's not necessary for their workflow. It's just adding tech and cost to this product that they don't need. And by doing so, they're now plucking this all-in-one device, so to speak, with their double tap feature, which I can't stand. It does nothing but trigger when I don't want it to. And they're separating that, and they're saying, here, if you're not an artist, you don't need to worry about all these extra bells and whistles. Here's the standard version. It magnetizes, it's fine. Yes, you have to plug it into the side to be able to charge it. That's perfectly fine. But we're stripping bells and whistles so that you as a student can just use it as a productivity tool for taking notes, for whatever you need it for. And for artists, mark my words, okay? Mark my words, maybe even as soon as this month, because they've been talking a lot about October keynotes in 2023, that there's rumors going around about a new iPad coming out, that they're going to be coming out with a new artist's pen specifically for professionals. That isn't only going to be just as good as this, but it might even be better. They're making a distinction between the professional and the standard user, the productivity user and the artistic creative user. That's what they're doing. That's what they did with the Mac Studio. That's what they're doing with the Apple Pencil. Mark my words. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did. It would probably come out with maybe improved pressure sensitivity. Maybe they might come out with actual hardware buttons, which would be phenomenal if you get something like a stylus that actually has the physical clicky buttons on it and get rid of the stupid double tap garbage that I can't stand. Increased pressure sensitivity, maybe better balance in the hand. The new Cintiq Pros that just came out this week have balancing. You can actually move around different weights inside of it to get the perfect balance for your hand. And maybe even with a grip, a thicker grip to it, because I always put grips on my Apple Pencils for drawing. If they do that, then they are severely leveling up, or seriously leveling up their Apple Pencil game for artists. And that will solidify the fact, that would be the final bit of proof that all of these other Apple YouTubers out there, all of these other tech YouTubers will realize, hey, wait a minute, Apple know what the hell they're doing. And they've known it so far, because every single transition in their tech, every single evolution of their tech that has come out so far has all supported that argument. Okay? So I am personally very excited that they've created a simple version of the Apple Pencil, because that means there's a pro version coming out very, very soon. And if I can refresh something on my huge Apple wish list moving forward, and this is probably the biggest, most exciting thing if Apple ever announced this, I hope, if you're listening, Apple, that the next Apple Studio display will be an Apple Studio pen display, like a Cintiq, like a Huion, like an XP pen, like a ZenSlabs. If they could come up with something like that, then holy shit, that will be a total game changer. Because if Apple does it in the same quality that they do their iPads, with the same technology, same colors, same sensitivity, same fluidness, same laminated screens, same simplicity of connectivity, same minimalist design, and you can replace these big, super heavy, clunky Cintiqs that cost you thousands and thousands of dollars, then I will be the first in line when that happens, let me tell you. All right? Thank you for indulging me, and talk to you soon. Take care.